The full moon hung low in the night sky, casting a silvery glow over the dense forests of Blackthorn Valley. Shadows stretched long and eerie, their shapes twisting with the whispers of the wind. For centuries, Blackthorn had been a place of hushed legends and fearful murmurs, a village cocooned in tales of beasts that prowled under the moonlight. The stories were old, older than the crumbling stone chapel at the heart of the village, older even than the massive oak trees that loomed like sentinels over the valley. No one spoke openly about the creature said to haunt the woods. To acknowledge it was to invite its wrath, or so the elders claimed. Yet the signs were undeniable. Sheep found slaughtered, their carcasses shredded as if by claws too large to belong to any known predator. Paw prints, enormous and alien, pressed deep into the forest floor. And then there were the howls, a mournful, bone-chilling sound that echoed through the valley on nights when the moon was brightest. For Amelia Rowan, the stories were both a fascination and a source of dread. She had grown up in Blackthorn, her childhood filled with warnings from her grandmother to stay indoors after sunset. The wolf watchers, her grandmother would say, eyes clouded with both fear and certainty. Amelia had often laughed it off as superstition, a relic of an older time. But now, at 28, she found herself questioning the line between myth and reality. Amelia had returned to Blackthorn reluctantly. Her father's sudden death had forced her to leave her bustling city life behind and take up residence in the family's old stone cottage. The village was unchanged, quaint, remote, and steeped in its peculiar traditions. But there was something else, something she couldn't quite name, a tension in the air, a feeling that the forest's edge was closer than it had ever been. It was on her third night back that she heard it. Amelia was sitting by the window, her fingers wrapped around a steaming mug of tea. The forest stretched out before her, a sea of black under the moonlight. Then it came, a low, guttural howl that seemed to vibrate through her very bones. It was unlike anything she had ever heard, not the bark of a fox, nor the call of an owl, but something primal, something alive with a fury that made her blood run cold. She froze, her heart hammering in her chest. The sound rose and fell, a symphony of anguish and power that seemed to beckon her, pulling her toward the window. Against her better judgment, she stepped closer, peering into the darkness. There, at the edge of the trees, a pair of glowing yellow eyes stared back at her. The days that followed were a blur of unease. The villagers were tight-lipped, their gazes darting toward the forest with a wariness that bordered on paranoia. Amelia tried to ask questions, but her inquiries were met with cold stares or muttered excuses. It was as if the entire village had collectively agreed to ignore the growing shadow that loomed over them. Desperate for answers, Amelia turned to the one person who might speak the truth, Edith Halloway, the village's oldest resident and keeper of its darkest secrets. Edith's cottage was a labyrinth of dusty books and strange artifacts, the air thick with the scent of herbs and decay. The old woman regarded Amelia with a sharp, knowing gaze as she entered. "You've heard it, haven't you?" Edith asked, her voice a brittle rasp. Amelia nodded. "The howls. And I've seen something. Eyes in the forest." "What is it, Edith? What's out there?" Edith sighed, sinking into her creaking chair. "The wolf. Or what we call a wolf. It's been here longer than any of us. Longer than this village. A creature bound to the moon, cursed to walk the earth as neither man nor beast. A werewolf." Amelia whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. Edith's eyes narrowed. "Call it what you will. But it's real, and it's angry. Why now?" Amelia pressed. "Why is it active?" The old woman hesitated, her gnarled fingers tracing a sigil carved into the armrest of her chair. "The balance has been disturbed. Something has awakened it. Perhaps your return is no coincidence, child." Amelia's stomach churned. "What do you mean?" Edith's gaze bore into her. "Your family has always been tied to the forest, to the wolf. Your father understood that, even if he never told you. If you want answers, you'll find them in the woods." That night, armed with nothing but a flashlight and a heart full of trepidation, Amelia ventured into the forest. The air was thick with the scent of moss and pine, and every rustle of leaves sent a shiver down her spine. She followed the path her father had often taken, the one that led to a clearing deep within the woods. As she walked, the howls began again, closer this time. They seemed to encircle her, coming from every direction and none at all. Panic clawed at her, but she pressed on, her flashlight slicing through the darkness. The clearing was bathed in moonlight when she arrived. At its center stood a stone altar, weathered and ancient, its surface etched with runes that glowed faintly in the pale light. The air hummed with energy, and Amelia felt a strange pull, as if the altar itself was alive. And then she saw it. The creature emerged from the shadows, its massive form both terrifying and awe-inspiring. It stood on two legs, its body rippling with muscle and covered in dark, matted fur. Its eyes, the same glowing yellow she had seen before, locked onto hers. Amelia wanted to run, but her legs refused to move. The creature stepped closer, its movements fluid and deliberate. It stopped mere feet from her, its gaze unyielding. To her surprise, it did not attack. Instead, it tilted its head, studying her as if trying to remember something long forgotten. "Who are you?" Amelia whispered, her voice barely audible. The creature let out a low growl, its claws flexing. Then, to her astonishment, it spoke. Its voice was deep and guttural, each word laced with pain. "I am bound, cursed, the last of my kind." Amelia's breath caught. Why are you here?" The creature's eyes seemed to soften, filled with a sorrow that pierced her heart. "To protect, to punish, the balance must be kept." Before she could ask more, the creature turned and vanished into the forest, leaving Amelia alone in the clearing. She stared at the altar, the runes now glowing brighter, and felt a surge of determination. Whatever this curse was, whatever her connection to it, she would uncover the truth. In the weeks that followed, Amelia delved into her father's journals, Edith's stories, and the village's hidden history. She learned of a pact made centuries ago, a bargain struck between the villages and the wolf to protect the land from invaders. But the pact had been broken, the details lost to time and greed. The wolf's rage was not mindless. It was a response to betrayal. As the full moon approached again, Amelia prepared herself. She returned to the forest, this time with an offering, a pendant her father had left her, engraved with the same runes as the altar. She placed it on the stone and waited. The creature appeared once more, its eyes filled with a mix of anger and recognition. Amelia stood her ground, holding out her hands in a gesture of peace. "I want to help you," she said. "Tell me how." The wolf hesitated, then stepped closer. It placed a clawed hand over the pendant, and Amelia felt a surge of energy pass between them. Images flooded her mind, a sacred ritual, the villagers gathered in unity, and the wolf standing as both guardian and prisoner. "The pact must be renewed," the creature said. "Only then can the curse be broken." Amelia nodded, determination burning in her chest. She would find a way to restore the balance, to mend the bond between the village and its ancient protector. As she looked into the wolf's eyes, she felt a strange sense of hope. Perhaps the legends were not just tales of fear, but lessons of harmony and redemption.